Thanks for watching the 4 characteristics of successful food truck entrepreneurs in 2016. In today's video, I'm going to be revealing the 4 characteristics that every long-term food truck entrepreneur seems to embody so that you can incorporate these same success habits and traits into your own business. Now, if you've ever wondered why some food trucks remain profitable long-term, they make really good money and they grow into, expanding into a restaurant. Maybe they end up selling their food within, restaurant storefronts. These 4 habits are what all of those breakout food trucks embody. And we're going to go through these in just a moment. But first, I just want to share a little bit about who I am so you know who's speaking. My name is Brett Lindenberg. I'm the founder of a website called foodtruckempire.com. And I started this website when I decided that I was going to launch my own food truck, and I wanted to take advantage of a podcast to be able to talk to the most successful food truck owners within the industry. And my partner there is to your right, Anthony Salvano. He is the owner of Switch It Up Food Truck, and he's been operating the business successfully for over 3 years in Albuquerque, New Mexico, serving up really great selection of spreads and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and high-end sandwiches. And if you happen to be in the Albuquerque area, I highly recommend you checking them out sometime. So back to our main message. How do we get from a food truck that fails or is completely average to one that really breaks out and is successful long-term and is able to grow if that's something that you want to do? Now, here's a statistic that I pulled online, and there's a few different percentages that you're going to get depending on, the source that you look up, but generally speaking, the consensus seems to be that about 59% of restaurants are going to fail within the first 3 years. Now, the success rates of a food truck is pretty much the same. If you happen to look on a website like in ebay.com, you're going to, or even a Craigslist, you're going to see a lot of failed food trucks out there in the landfills of broken dreams, like we're looking at right here, this unsuccessful food truck. So how do we get from a food truck that ultimately fails to some of these food trucks that really seem to break out? Like, for example, a Cousin's Maine Lobster. This is a food truck that got funded by Barbara Cochran on the popular TV show Shark Tank. They now have over, I want to say, 20 different franchise owners. They've got a brick and mortar location, and they do millions of dollars in revenue each year. They started out with just one food truck and a couple of guys and an idea to serve really good high-end lobster rolls. Or someone like this, Eric Silverstein. He's out of Austin, Texas. He started a food truck just a few years ago called the Peach Tortilla. Left his high-paying career as a lawyer, actually, to start a food truck. And within about 3 years, he had opened his first location in a brick-and-mortar store, and he will definitely be growing further over the next few years. And all the way to my own business partner's truck, Anthony Salvano, Switch It Up, based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, been able to operate that successfully for over 3 years now, with growth to the business every single year. So before we dive into the 4 success factors, like I said, I have personally spoken with and had the opportunity to speak firsthand with over 80 different food truck entrepreneurs. And what I really wanted to do with this video is try to encapsulate the main things that those different food truck owners that were successful did so that I could share it with you, put it together for you in a video so that you can become and position yourself as one of those trucks that can be like a Peach Tortilla, like a Cousin's Maine Lobster, like a Switch It Up. So let's dive right into this. So the first key or characteristic that I've realized is that the food trucks that end up succeeding, they take the time to plan out their business ahead of time. And the best way that I know how to do that is within a business plan. Now, let me just give you an example here. There's one entrepreneur that I spoke with in the past. He owns a very successful Pakistani food truck in Texas, of all places. But before he launched his food truck, he actually spent about 1 year just writing his business plan. So here's what he did. He basically went around and spent a lot of time researching his area. He really got to know the locations that the existing successful food trucks were going to. So he would follow around the successful burger trucks, the successful taco trucks, and he would park, outside nearby where they were parking, and literally write down, what times they were going to different places, what locations seemed to be the most profitable. And he would also literally write down the number of customers that came to the window over the period of a few hours to kind of get a good estimate of the amount of sales and the amount of revenue that particular food truck was doing. Now, as you might imagine, if you are willing to put in the work to follow around some of the successful food trucks in your area, and it's very easy to find out where they're going to be. They're going to post that information on their website. They're going to post that information on Twitter. But if you're going to follow around and gather this data over the course of a couple months, how easy is it going to be for you to determine where you want to start parking your truck? What businesses maybe you want to start targeting for potential catering relationships down the line. Really taking the time to build out an actual business plan where you're looking at your competition, you're figuring out where you're going to get revenue from, so where you're going to park, where you're going to cater. Those are really going to be some of the things that separate you. And you want to do this early on before you start the food truck, not afterwards. And one of the other important things too with this from a revenue standpoint, what a lot of people end up doing that fail when they start out with a food truck is they'll say, oh yeah, I've planned out where I'm going to be. We're going to park on, 3rd and Main, and that's where the rest of the food trucks park, and that's where we're going to be, and it's going to work out, and it's going to be successful. Well, what if that first spot doesn't end up working out? What if for some reason, A, you're not able to park there, just due to other people kind of already parking in that location? 2, what if it ends up not being as profitable as you thought it was going to be? Do you have a second place that you want to vend? Do you have a third? Do you have a fourth? What you really want to do is start kind of building out that series of places that you can vend or cater well beforehand. Now, if you want to, what I really recommend doing is on this same page, I've included a business plan, and this is the same business plan that Anthony wrote for Switch It Up Food Truck. I encourage you to download this and get a sense of the type of information that has been presented in here, because that's really going to help you out with how to fill out this information and the type of information that's going to help you build out your plan in there with a real live example. Key 2, this is another really big one that people get wrong. Now, food truck industry in general is dominated by people that are really, really passionate about cooking a certain type of food. They just want to share the food that they're good at cooking with the world. And that's one of the things that I personally really, really love about the food truck industry. But the thing that really gets people hung up is that sometimes folks, the thing that they love to cook is something that's really complex. It's really tough to execute, or it takes a long time to cook. In the food truck industry, if you want to be successful from a business standpoint, you really need menu items that you can execute fast in a small area, and that you can really, really get out the door quickly. And you probably want to really limit your menu also to just a handful of core items. I wouldn't go over more than 10 items on a food truck. So just to give you a couple examples of some successful food trucks that really understand how to execute their menus. So one of the food trucks that we mentioned previously that is able to crank out a lot of meals per hour is Cousin's Made Lobster. You think about what their product is. They put lobster, that they have cooked beforehand. They put it onto a roll. They stick it out the window and they serve it to someone. Now, this is, a very tasty product. It's very delicious. It's simple, but it's something that people also can't get just anywhere. So you can see by just looking at how they execute theirs, they're able to do the majority of the work putting together the lobster base before they actually get onto the truck. And then when it's time to serve, it's literally just a matter of scooping the lobster into a roll and serving it. And you're pretty much done. Sure, there might be a little bit more details than that, but I mean, that's essentially what they're doing. And they're able to execute that very fast. And that means that they're able to serve more meals per hour than a lot of the food trucks that are going to be parked next to them. And that's a really, really key component to take advantage of and to understand, because there are limited time windows when you're going to do the majority of your sales within a food truck. Lunchtime is only, an hour or two really long for most people, right? The dinner rush, maybe 5 to 7 o'clock. Those are going to be your peak times. So what you don't want to do is get a line built up behind you and not have you taking advantage of the demand that is there. You want to be able to crank these things out quickly and serve as many people as possible in as little time as possible. Another example, just off the top of my head, that I can share is the shaved ice business. Think about a shaved ice truck, how quickly you can execute that. It's pretty much ice with syrup on top, right? I mean, you can't get much easier than that to execute. And that is one reason why a franchise like Kona Ice, which has grown to, I want to say, over 400 franchises, really successful franchise food trucks in the United States, has been able to be so successful. They're able to not just execute their product really, really fast and get a lot of sales out, but they also have a super, super high margin on the product that they sell. Which leads very well into my next item, food cost. You've really, really got to figure out your food cost before going into business. This is something you can't just kind of haphazardly go after or hope that you have money at the end of the day. It's just not going to work out. You need to combine profitable menu with the step that I mentioned before, fast execution of that. That really is what's going to equal a successful food truck, whether that's this year or next year. Now, just to throw out another example of food costs, if we look at our previous examples of Cousin's Maine Lobster, here you've got a product, lobster rolls, which are pretty expensive. Anyone that's been to the grocery store, you're going to be able to see that lobster is probably one of the more expensive items that you can buy. But they're also able to demand a premium for that product of, between $15 or literally around $15 to $20 a roll. So, and because, they're able to serve it fast, it's a good product. It's a higher end product. They can demand those prices and still make a great margin on that. Now, we look at our Kona Ice example too. That's a little bit different, but it's the same kind of idea. Shaved ice is a very low cost item to serve off of a truck. A lot of times when you sell shaved ice for, say, $3 for a cup, you literally might only end up paying with the cup about 25 to 30 cents. Your food cost is super, super low in that industry. So you're able to not just execute fast, but every single one of those shaved ice you sell, you're making an enormous amount of profit off of it. And you're not working that hard to do it either, I might add. Now, there's plenty of other profitable menus that you can go after too, but it's really, really key to think about that before you actually start serving, before you actually start buying the food truck, is to think about, okay, how much is this food going to cost me? How much can I realistically sell it for? And then also, how fast can I serve it? Because these three things are really going to be what determines success or failure. Another great example of a business that does really, really well on food costs. Just to give you another example, is a popular truck called the grilled cheese truck. They have a franchise down in Southern California. They not only make tremendous grilled cheese sandwiches, but they've also helped veterans buy into their franchises and operate their truck, which is just a really, really great social cause that I think anyone really can get behind and that I personally really appreciate. But if you think about their business, the cost of a grilled cheese sandwich, I mean, sure, they've got some, higher end ones with, bacon on them, etc. But bread, cheese, that's pretty much it, right? Those are two of the most available and cheap commodities that you can purchase at a store. So that, again, it can be cooked really fast. It doesn't cost that much. And that enables them to be successful because they're able to kind of combine something that people crave. It's a profitable menu item, and they can execute it super, super fast. Finally, this last component is a doozy, and it really prevents a lot of people from getting started. And I really don't mean to be tongue-in-cheek when I say this, but raising the money for a food truck is one of the largest kind of factors in whether or not a business even gets started or not. A lot of people try to bootstrap this thing and buy, the cheapest truck that they can get that, maybe doesn't look good, probably doesn't operate that well, isn't positioned to last you for a few years even. Lack of startup capital and having that capital just so that you can get started and get off the ground is really one of the most key components to operating a successful business. And it's kind of a no-brainer, but it still needs to be stated that you really need to get the funds up front beforehand. There are a few different ways that you can do it. Some of the top ways that food truck owners that I have spoken to in the past, I wrote down the top 3 ways that they acquired capital. The first one is kind of the most obvious: personal savings. Now, a lot of people have taken money out of their 401k, out of their savings account, maybe taken on another loan on their house to get part of that down payment. That's unfortunately one of the most popular ways that people have funded their food trucks this way, successful or not. The second way is actually one way that I recommend looking into if you are super, super serious about starting a food truck, and that is getting a loan through a nonprofit organization. If you happen to live in an area with a relatively large number of people, any type of a suburban area, there are typically organizations in your area and nonprofits that are going to lend money to small businesses. Now, this is one of the ways that actually Anthony also got the initial capital for his food truck. He found an organization in Albuquerque that helps small businesses get a little bit of funding for their businesses, and this helps spur commerce within the area. So he was able to submit his business plan, his well thought out plan, to this organization, and they were able to get him a loan at a really, really good rate, and a rate that likely another bank would not be able to offer him. And really, it's, especially if you are just starting out your food truck, it can be very difficult to get a traditional bank loan, although that is getting easier. Now, the third and final most popular way that people are getting funding for their food trucks right now, if you haven't heard of this before, crowdfunding is one of the biggest opportunities for an aspiring food truck entrepreneur right now. If you aren't familiar with the term crowdfunding, if you've heard of websites like Kickstarter, GoFundMe.com, basically these are websites that allow you to put up a page. Typically there's a video that you can put up in a description of what you need money for. The money can be for a variety of reasons, from starting a product to maybe launching a new t-shirt line. But there are tons of food trucks that have acquired some, if not all, of their funding just by doing crowdfunding campaigns. And there's really high potential for getting a lot of money, $30,000 plus through these sources, but you really, really need to work at it. Those are kind of the breakout ones that are able to raise that much money. But there are so many food trucks out there today that if you have a more modest goal, something like raising $3,000, $4,000, or even $5,000, getting that amount of money is so much easier. And you don't need a huge network. And I think you'd be surprised at how people, when you get the message out, they really want to help you start a business. Everyone can kind of relate with having a dream, wanting a better life for yourself, maybe even getting out of their job. This is something that people absolutely relate with, and you might be surprised at the number of people that you can get to contribute to your campaign. Anthony also used a combination of, in addition to the loan that I referenced before, he also used crowdfunding, just like this, to raise money for part of his food truck, and he was able to raise over $5,000 off of a pretty modest campaign, and that's something that we'll talk about in a little bit, the process that he used to actually get that. So these are the four key things that I've really seen based on all of my interviews with the food truck entrepreneurs that I've spoke to through Food Truck Empire podcast. Now, for listening to this, I'm also including on this page a few other bonus items to help you get set up and incorporate these four different characteristics within your own business. So I mentioned this before, but on this page you can download the business plan. This is the exact business plan that Anthony Salvagno, Switch It Up Food Truck, used to start his own food truck business. You're going to see the process that he used to look at his competition, how he figured out where to find revenue opportunities for his business, and also you'll see his breakout of costs within his spreadsheet for his food costs and what he expected to pay to start a food truck. The second thing that's going to be on this page is the cost spreadsheet. This is going to give you an outline of kind of a rough estimate of how much it costs to start a food truck on average and some of the monthly expenses that are associated with it. After you know the basic expenses, you can then kind of start to figure out, okay, how much money do I need to make on a food truck to make it worth my while, be able to support my family? These are really the two big things. Figuring out your costs, figuring out your business plan are the two big things that you should be doing before you launch your business. And if you've already launched your business and things are going okay, I recommend taking a step back, kind of looking at these when you have some time and really making a plan around your business in 2016. And I think that you will be very happy with the results out of it. Finally, I've included a podcast interview on this page that basically gives you an outline of more about the business plan, more about filling this out, some more of the details, and me and Anthony kind of discuss his thought process for going through and creating his business plan. So if this is something that you connect with, if these business aspects kind of make sense to you and it sounds like something that you want to do for your business, but you haven't really had the time to do so, or it's been too confusing or really just too much work so far, we have a live course coming up, and it starts February 9th. It's called Food Truck Academy Live, and our first class is being held at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And what we do in this live course is it's actually an 8-week program where we teach you start to finish how to start a food truck business in 2016. We go through step by step these important points with you, writing a business plan, figuring out your financial plan, and we kind of break it up into chunks week by week. In addition to that, we totally understand that it is extremely confusing right now to start a food truck. There's a million different steps you have to go through. You have to figure out your menu. You have to figure out the rules and regulations in your area. And you have to figure out how to build your build your food truck and also fund your food truck at the exact same time. What we really do over this 8-week period is chunk it out for you so that you can start to structure your own business plan and start to really finally think about how you're going to operate your business, how you're going to generate revenue over this 8-week time period. Now, the goal for everyone in this class, once they get through this, is to have a completed business and financial plan ready so that you can be confident to launch your food truck in 2016. In addition to having this business plan, at the end of the course, everyone has their business plan reviewed by Anthony Salvagna, who, again, is a real food truck owner. He's been operating his business for a long time. And he's going to give you a one-on-one consulting session, too, where he's going to review your business plan with you and just say, he's going to review the numbers, talk about if they make sense, talk about specifically if your plan for operation is going to be profitable or not. The last thing that we want you to do is to embark on, a journey to owning a food truck if your numbers aren't working out right and you're ultimately destined to fail. What we want to do is, before you invest a ton of money, is get your total plan flushed out so that we can move forward and you have the best chance of being successful in the new year. Now, in addition to these 8 weeks, immediately afterwards, we're going to be doing kind of a 2-week mini course just on crowdfunding because we know this is such an important issue, and we were surprised by the number of people that wanted to do this within the first class that we had. So this is really feedback based on the first class that we had to start a crowdfunding course. So what we're really going to be doing during this is giving you a step-by-step plan following the same process that Anthony used to raise over $5,000 for his food truck. And then we're also going to be giving you some advanced training for if you really want to go beyond that point. I'm not going to lie, it is going to be a lot of work if you want to get beyond that $5,000 threshold and you want to get into something like, over $10,000 funding. It's not going to be for everyone, but we're going to give you the plan, no holds barred, no bull, on how to get there if that's something that you want to pursue. Finally, with this course, you're going to get lifetime access to our Food Truck Mastermind, which is a private Facebook group. You're going to have total access to this and also access to everyone else within the community. One of the things that we were surprised about when we got done with our first course, which happened in just 2015, is that a lot of the class members ended up meeting up with other food truck owners in their area and building business relationships, which is awesome. If you don't currently have relationships in your area, this can be a great way to network with other people that are really serious about starting and really starting to form some alliances, because that's a very, very critical step of being successful in this type of business. So, if this message resonates with you, you can find the details on the link at this page. It'll be in the upper hand portion of the page, and you can just find some more details about this course that we're going to be kicking off. Again, we're kicking this off live next week, and this is limited to 25 students total. Just to keep it small, we want to keep it intimate and be able to work with everyone one-on-one. And I hope to see some of you in the live class starting up next week. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at support@foodtruckempire.com, and I can answer any questions you have about it. But we actually have under 10 spots remaining at this time. So I'd really love to see you in the course. It's a really fun class, and I think that you're going to get a lot of value out of it if this is something that you're serious about this year.